Right. So Dr. Shyster has joined us. Shyster is someone who has kindly volunteered, I think, for all of our conferences so far. So we're ever so grateful for her taking the time out each year and helping so many IMG doctors in their ONG careers. So yes, and Dr. Shyster herself has got her own platform to help trainees and IMG doctors in their career pathways, and we'll be putting out the link in the chat. So without further ado, Shaista, I'll hand it over to you and you can start your talk. But thank you so much for coming out on a Sunday to help everyone.
Thank you for the opportunity, and it's always amazing to talk and get clarified about things which we all struggle with. So I'll quickly try to share my screen. Just 1 second.
Yeah, all good.
Okay. So I'm working as an OBGYN trainee for last 2 years. I'll be speaking about the journey and some few myths about OBGYN. And as the team said, I have link for my blog at the bottom of slides. You can always go through things in detail there or reach me out on Insta or whatever. We'll share the links in the last slide. So just quickly going through, I'll be speaking about these points in general. Um, some points are already, I think, covered in detail about like MSRA application and stuff, but I'll touch about that. And I'll talk about working as an OBGYN, as a non-trainee, as a trainee as well, because I have been through both sides of that. And I'll quickly speak about some pros and cons and help you out deciding if you should or shouldn't go through that. So about me, I have done my MBBS from Pakistan. Then I did my house job, which is equivalent to foundation years there. And I did my GMC registration and PLABs and everything. So I came through the PLAB route, which I think everybody is familiar with. The basic chunk of working in UK is to get GMC registration. So one of the pathway which we as a junior most doctors do is the PLAB one. PLAB 1, PLAB 2, GMC registration, and then you apply for your applications. I started December 2019 as a training doctor, as a non-training doctor, sorry, as an F1 post, foundation year one, non-training post, and that was neurosurgical post. That was just to get to know the system, get into NHS, and work along with some colleagues to understand. I did 8 or 9 months of that. Then I applied for a couple of other jobs. I did start my second job as a obs and gynae non-trainee doctor as an F2 again. Again, this is not mandatory. You can apply at any grade after you've done your PLABs and GMC registration at a non-training level or a training level, but this was my choice. Um, During that whole year, I applied for obs and gynae training post. So I had to work from, let's say, um, November 2020 for the application MSRA. Then all the application process took like a year, and then you get into the training. So I started my training journey as an ST1 in August 2021. So I'm almost finishing my ST2 now. I'm currently in East Midland trainee. So basically, before jumping into how you can get into obs-and-gynae, I think everybody should be knowing about what is expected of you when you're working as a junior doctor in obs-and-gynae. Once one of my consultants said something that before choosing your profession, you should know that what should your life look like when you be a consultant. Hopefully your junior post doesn't last forever, 5 to 7 years maybe, but you will face lots of challenges, and sometimes it looks daunting, but if it is what you like and you really think you can cope with that as a consultant, I think then you should go for that. And that's why I think I encourage all of my colleagues to at least get some experience in the field which you want to do. So if I wanted to do obs and gynae, although I could jump for training application straight away after my foundation years, but I found it really helpful to go through obs and gynae non-training post so I could understand, like, is it really for me or not? Because you don't want to waste 1 or 2 years struggling with applications, getting through all the difficulties, and then once you start your job, and then you're like, after 6 months, you're like, maybe this is not for me. So when you're working in obs and gynae as a junior doctor, as a junior reg, or um, before being a consultant, really, you're junior. So it's a very dynamic day. It's not like you're coming in a day and you're doing a clinic in the morning and you're doing a theater list in the afternoon, or you're doing a clinic for whole day. It's not defined because you have to cover lots of basics here. You're working in obs and gynae, and obs and gynae itself is a big field, and that covers a lot of things. If you just take obs, it's a lot of things to be done: clinics, theaters, emergency service as well, and same goes for gynae as well. And we cover ladies all the way, so from their early menarche to menopause and post-menopause and cancers and everything. So that covers a whole lots of population. You need to have that compassion and empathy. You need to have those team working skills and some basic skill for obs and gynae. Nobody's expecting you to do a section on a day one. Let's say that. So very basic skills as a junior doctor. What you're doing, history taking examination, some basic skills like cannula, ECGs, referrals, requesting scans, and all those sort of things you will understand once you're working in NHS in any job. There's lots of senior support. As I said, it's always junior before you being consultant, and then you're junior consultant. So there's always someone senior than you who is on the side and ready to help you out, so you're not stuck on your own calls or something. These things I think is very important to understand, because these will help you to build your applications. Even if you're applying for a training job or a non-training job, these are the few things which you should know before jumping in ops and gynae. Some facts about obs and gynae. I will touch about all of these points in detail. Something to know about ST1 or ST3 training, and non-training or not training. I think you already know that training and non-training, both options are there on the table for you, and you can complete whichever pathway you want. You can either work as a non-trainee and work through your competencies and get through your Caesar route pathway, which is not required training, but you need all of the things which a trainee needs. You need them signed off. But it's not paced, and you need to work on yourself, and you need to find someone who is happy to supervise you and get you signed off. On the other hand, you can always work as a non-trainee doctor and don't worry about reaching the Caesar pathway. You can always be a senior reg, work your own hours and things like that. Training pathway, obs and gynae, is a run through, which is from ST1 to ST7. Since now it's run through, but maybe they will change in future. We don't know that. Since I started, it's ST1 to ST7. So once you've done your application, you got into ST1, then you don't need to do another interview and an application and everything for your specialties. Okay. You will go through your different hospitals in the deanery, regions and everything, and you will work along with your exams, your competencies. You'll have your ARCPs every year to get to know where you are in your progression year. And then you will move from ST1 to, which is basic training. Then ST3, 4 and 5 is intermediate training. And then ST6 and 7 is complex training. But in all those years, you're working as a junior SHO, ST1 and 2. Then you're working as a junior reg, 3, 4 and 5. Then a senior reg, 6 and 7. So you'll always have someone senior to support. Competition ratio and fill rates, that's a very hot favorite question. I'll talk about that in detail in my next slide. Although obs and gynae is a bit competent field, that's what we say, but it's always possible to get into it. Which stage do you want to get in? ST1, ST3 training, or you want to go through the non-training one? That's up to you. There are always applications for ST1, and then there are certain requirements for ST1 applications. For ST1 application round, you don't need much of obs and gynae. The only requirement they have is, I think, you don't need to have more than 24 months of experience in obs and gynae. If you have more than 24 months of obs and gynae, then you're not qualified for ST1 training post. Then you need to apply for ST3 round. ST3 does need a lot of things to be done before you apply for application. I'll talk about the competition and fill rates of ST1 and ST3 in detail, and some competition ratio and competencies as well for ST1 or ST3. But you can apply for ST1 or ST3, whichever route you are liking. MRCOG, you need to have 3 parts MRCOG 1, 2, and 3 by the end of your training. But if you're starting from ST1, you don't need part 1 of MRCOG. You only need the MSRA route and then get into ST1. because what they say is at the end of ST2 you need to have part 1. Okay, and by the end of ST5 you need to have part 2 and 3. But if you have done it, that's a bonus point, but this is not mandatory. So instead of working on MRCOG at the moment, if you're applying for ST1 applications next round, you should focus on more developing your competencies, getting experience, and working on MSRA maybe, and understanding applications and everything instead of focusing on MRCOG1. But if you can do both, why not? A timeline, I told you ST1 to ST5, and there's a dropout rate. It's very high. There are lots of factors. It's not just because it's competent, it's difficult. There are lots of emotional, physical factors which are coming along with this field, being a female. And if you're male as well, there are lots of challenges. And it's a very emotional field, to be honest. And again, that's why I say you need to work in obs for a bit so you know, is it really for you or not. um, and there's no judging in that, so that's why people start with ST1 directly, and then in a year or two they are exhausted, and there's a lots of things about law and complexity of the field and emotional aspects, and people want to drop out. They are doing everything they can to retain our trainees. So you are getting a lots of support on a positive side of that, but it's not impossible. So these are the some fill out ratios and competition ratios as well. If you can see here, for fill rate for ST1 last year round is 88%. That mean we still have some seats which are not covered. Why is that? We don't know. Maybe it's the area which they didn't like and the seats didn't get filled out. Maybe it's people are not wanting to apply for ST1. We don't know, but you can see some opportunities there. ST3 2023 round was 100% successful, and it's mostly like that. Again, because for ST1 we have like 200 plus seats and 1000 plus applicants, but for ST3 we only have less than 100 seats and there are lots of applicants. So your competition ratio is made by how many applicants were there and how many seats were there. As I said, ST1 are more seats as compared to ST3. So you can say that even if the numbers are there, it can make some difference. Because if you see from 2019 2020 year when COVID was there, ST1 was like 2.62. So for every slot, there were two applicants there. For last few years, it's been 3.3, 3.7, which is moderate difficult range. And for last year, it's been 4.3. Why is that? Is it getting more competent? Is it that because we are getting more applicants now? Because what I've seen is we are getting more applicants now. Maybe there is lots of awareness, and there are conferences like this one, and people are getting to know where they want to start. And then and another thing is people know that now they can apply for training ground directly. Okay. Another thing which I want to highlight here is that even if the ratios are more, you know that everyone who is applying for jobs or applications, maybe they are not just applying for one job. So for example, if someone applied for obs and gynae trainee job ST1, they have applied for medicine training as well. That is making your competition, but maybe they won't choose obs and gynae or medicine because they need to choose one at the end of the day. So again, don't get so much negativity about competition ratio is getting higher, but there's lots of positive aspects as well if you see the fill out rate of last year. Okay. For ST3 now, if you see 2021 was 14.18, which is quite depressing that there is only one slot for 14 applicants and people got discouraged about that. But if you see a trend is coming as compared to that is 3.92 for the last year now, which is almost equal to your ST1 ratio. So some seats are more, but there's always people are applying for other jobs and people are waiting for appropriate time to apply for ST3 as well. So I think it's quite important if we don't just believe on the numbers and we can work through our applications. It's not impossible. If I got it, I think definitely you guys can get into it if you just got the right amount of information and hard work in the right channel. So this is the matrix for obs and gynae from Royal College, and this is used to know which competencies you need at what level. Okay, you can always go to the RCOG website. The link will be on the site. You can go through the tables and you can see that part 1 on the second row is required at the ST2 level. So if you're applying for ST3 jobs, maybe training or non-training, whatever, you need to have these competencies done. You can't just go to ST3 level and say that I don't know how to do a section. Okay, so that will help you that what is needed at ST1 level, or what is needed at a junior reg level, what is needed at a senior reg level, and these are all the things which you need if you're working through your way to Caesar pathway, obs and gynae, and you don't want to go into the training loop, but you want to work on your own, but you will need all of these skill set. Okay, so you can always go back to the matrix and check it out. Process of application for SC1, it's very straightforward. For SC3, you don't need MSRA. You will need to apply for the SC3 round. All the dates and when those rounds are, how many seats are there. You can go back to the HEE sites, type on Google, and you can look into that. This was the application process for Obs and Gynae ST1 training job. So you submit your applications via Oriel. You will get long listing. For long listing, you just need your crest form signed off, which is telling that you're done with your foundation years, you're competent enough for your foundation years, and you can get into your training pathway now, you're ready for that. So crest form, all the details are on the blogs, you can always check it out. You need to have 3 months of working with someone who is happy to sign your forms that you're competent enough from foundation years, and then you will submit all those forms. November, December, your round opens, and then after they have checked your application, all the checklist is done, you'll get your MSRA invite. Now I won't wait for getting an invite for MSRA. If I know my crust is done, I'll start preparing for MSRA, because that takes some time, and um, that's counting a big chunk of your uh, scores for final preferences and final rank number. So start your MSRA prep, give your exam. You can do it remotely on computers, and once you're done with that, you'll get your scores out. After MSRA, you'll get some your shortlisting. So MSRA does take a lot of scores in your application process. After that, that I think counts as a 33% of MSRA score counts in your final scores. On the basis of that, if you've done excellent job in MSRA, you might bypass the interview process. You'll get directly go to the preferences, and you will get an offer depending on your preferences. But if your scores are just okay, like me, you will be getting an invite for interview. Then again, you need to prepare for your interview. The interview has like 2 parts. I won't go in details of that. For preferences, now you need to put your preferences from all the areas. Where do you want to go first? According to, they won't give you a rank number before preferences, but you just need to tell them whichever areas you want to go first, second, third. So you will need to have the areas which you want to go in, and which you don't want to go in at all, you need to take them out. And then you will get your offer or rank, and then you will get your offers, and offers are getting every 2 days or a week. Once all the slots are filled out, they will keep sending offers to the next available person. So my offer rank was 366, but the seats were only 250 or something. So you can see, if you're getting rank number of 366 and the seats are only 250, you will say maybe I won't get it because all the seats will be filled up. But it didn't. I got offer, and then some people who were after me, they got offers as well, because as I said, people are applying for multiple jobs. People are not liking the area they are offered. So there are so many factors. So don't lose hope until you get the final rejection or offer letter. Okay. These are some links for my blog. We have Obs and Gynae community on Facebook group as well. You just simply type Obs and Gynae training group, Obs and Gynae training UK. You will see lots of people. It's quite new and newbie group. So if you join, and you can get some help, or you can help someone who is applying for next round. And that's my Instagram name. You can always reach out if you have any questions, and keep an eye on for things. Um, that's all and quickly done for me. I'm happy to take any questions if you have.
Thank you, Shaisha. That was really, really good. Yeah, a couple of questions have come in, but they seem to have been most of them answered as you went through your further slides, which is good. So someone's saying, can you just re-go through the steps from ST1 till the end? So just quick recap of the stages within training itself for somebody.
So, for example, if you're starting with the ST1, ST1 doesn't need much of it, okay? But as I said, there are progression years. So from ST2, you're progressing to a junior reg level. From ST5, you're jumping to ST6 when you're senior reg level. So these are your progression year of ST training of obs and gynae. That's when they are assessing you very in detail about all the competencies, all the things you need to done. So from ST2, when you're jumping to ST3, they are looking at someone who can work as a junior reg level now. As I said, in matrix, you see that you are working, you need part one. You need to have competencies of basic C-sections. You need to have competencies of instrumental deliveries. You need to have competencies of perineal repair. You need to have competencies of some small task like IUCD insertion. You need to know how to do biopsy for endometrial biopsies. And you need to know basic things of history taking examination, how to make a provisional diagnosis, but nobody's leaving you independently 100%. But from ST5, when you're jumping from senior reg, from junior reg to a senior reg, then there are lots of things which you need to do: basic scans, intermediate sections, instrumental deliveries on a complex level, and then you are more likely will be expected to work more independently, but again with some senior support.
Yeah, very good. A quick question about application. Can we apply throughout the application 1 month of November, or should we apply ASAP? Is it first come, first serve?
So when the round opens for application, you will start putting your application in. Then there will be a deadline. Before that, you can always put your application in. Once the deadline are there, then you can't apply for that round. Then you will just need to wait for them to longlist you and send you an invite for MSRA. But I think last year they were doing 2 rounds now, one for Feb and one for August. So for Feb batch, they did start applications in June, July time. And for August batch, which is usually normally happening, and then you get your application starting line was November. And there's no first come, first serve thing because they need to do long listing at this point, right? Long listing, if for example 1,000 people are getting long listing, as I said, if you go back to your competition ratio, there were 1,000 applicants for like for whole 250 seats, right? So those 1,000 people did apply for the application, then they did long listing, right? So all of them did get through MSRA. Then after MSRA, how many got shortlisting? We don't know, maybe 500. Then how many got the seats? Finally they need to take 250 out of them, right? So all of them who have done the crust form and everything, they will get long listing. And after long listing, how many get through the interview phase? We don't know. It depends on your MSRA score and your application scores.
Very good. Another query. I've got a postgraduate degree from India, but have a gap. Now I've cleared MRCG Part 1, MRCOG Part 1, and I'm doing PLAB 2 registration. What would my options be? Will I need MSRA or MRCOG Part 2?
Sorry, I missed how many years of experience?
It just says I've got a postgraduate degree from India, but I have a gap. It doesn't say how.
Right. So gap is fine. If you have 10 years gap, because as I said, it's very uh, emotionally driven field as well. So we as a female do understand there are lots of things when we need to take breaks. So there's no judging. And overall, to be honest, in UK system, that's fine. On most of the sides, it's fine if you have 10 years of gap and something. But that depends. If you apply for ST1 or 3, that will depend. If you have more than 24 months of obs and gynae experience, then you can't apply for ST1 training job, but you can always apply for non-training job to get back into the system, okay? But if you're very keen in applying training job with more than 24 months of experience, then your route will be ST3, right? And as I said, to start ST3, you don't need part 2 and part 3. You need lots of competencies and need to show that you're done with all of that, and you need to score for your publications, you need to score for your research, teachings, all the generic things which everybody does for their CV thing. You need to do that. But if you have less than 24 months of experience and you have been out for some years, that's fine. You start with your GMC registration, you come back to UK and you start working non-training job maybe, or you can start with ST1 training job. And again, there are various things which you can do.
Question coming in, are there any subspecialties? Can you skip going through to ST7 and start them? For example, if someone is not interested in OBS, but wants to do gynae onc?
That's very favorite when you've done your ST5, but you still need obs and gynae to complete your training. Okay, you need to get your CCT, right? Which is completion of training. For that, you need to do all of that. There are, when you start your ST6, that's something called ATSM, which is Advanced Training Specialty. There you can choose which specialty is your favorite, like gynae onc, basic gynae, whatever. You need to choose both, two modules of that. But that doesn't mean you need to do only those two modules and you can't do anything else. You need to do everything, and then you need to focus both modules which you are interested in, and then you will complete your training, and then you will be a consultant. But then saying that, some people don't like going through that. Once they've done their ST5, they want to leave training, which is not something which we should advise on. Then they leave training and then they go for some non-training higher specialty jobs, which is like clinical fellow or something. And there they are focusing more on their favorite, like fertility, gynae or whatever. Again, that goes back to your non-training pathway. But for training pathway, you will have two options of modules, but that doesn't mean you won't do obs at all. You will do obs.
Great. And I think two quick final questions to end, Shaista. Is ALS training required for application, number one? And does FSRH jobs, do they take the same route?
I think ALS is required because in your crust form, if you go back to your crust form, there are so many things which all the basic foundation years need to do, right? That goes back to that. And about FSRH route, I don't know about that. What I wanted to highlight here is that there are some colleagues who have done their trainings back home, and then they are asking if they want to go for PLAB or something else. So for, again, if you want to work in UK, you need to have GMC registration. And for GMC registration, one of the pathway is PLAB, and the other pathway is from specialty route. If you've done your part 1, part 2, and part 3, then you can apply for specialty route. You get your GMC done. You don't need to do PLABs. I don't know if OET or IELTS are requirement. Then you can apply for any UK jobs. But for example, someone who has done part 1 and part 2, they can't get the registration. They need to have either part 3 now, MRCOG, or they need to complete PLAB pathway now. So it's up to you.
Yeah, fantastic. Brilliant. I think that was really, really helpful. Shaista, just like your last couple of talks on this topic. I think we've gone through all the key questions. But yeah, thank you very much. I think that was
No
really, really
worries.
helpful. And do join that other session that Dr. Shaista is doing, and have a look at the stuff she does on Instagram. It's very helpful. The blog she does is very helpful as well. So yeah, we appreciate it.